You are listening to the James Carpenter Podcast Show, episode number 13. Hello. Welcome back to another episode. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I've been feeling nervous and anxious all week long, combined with a sense of excitability. And here's why. So, I've just finished up my new scorecard for weight loss, and I've called it the WIPIMM Scorecard, or what I'm putting in my mouth. And I've designed it for lasting weight loss because it not only addresses the foods that we eat, but also the component of why we're eating what we do and why we want the food in the first place, like why we want to eat, when we eat, and deciding the foods that we're actually consuming. And there's always an underlying emotion or feeling that's driving us to want to eat, whether that's physical hunger or emotional triggers. And so this scorecard I created is meant to help anyone struggling with weight loss to gain a different perspective on their relationship with food. And so even though I've been feeling these mixed feelings, it's because of the thoughts that I'm having. And having learned from my coach and now teaching this concept to others, that everything revolves around our thinking, our thoughts. And our thoughts create all of our emotions and feelings, and how we feel determines our actions. And it directly impacts how we show up each and every day. Or to the opposite effect, it immobilizes us to not want to show up and seek after distractions. So it then creates inaction, depending on how we feel. And depending on what we do, that will then determine what our end results are, or what it is that we accomplish at the end of each day. And it doesn't matter how many times I do this, I still get nervous. And it's because of what I'm making it mean. And it could very easily be that, or it could be very easy for me to hit the stop record button right now and go eat something because of all of these mixed emotions that I'm having. And since we don't want to feel anything negative in our lives, that's usually what happens is we seek after these distractions to escape the feeling, to get us to the next moment. And so then the question becomes, how do you deal with a negative feeling or a negative thought if it creates this sense of inaction or this sense of constant seeking after distractions? And here's how you allow yourself to handle negative, sensing and feeling these negative emotions and feelings. It's allowing yourself the space to identify what it is in the first place. Is it a feeling or an emotion that you're having, or is it a thought? Now, a lot of the times we're pretty good at distinguishing one or the other. Like if we're really good at saying to ourselves, man, I just feel really anxious, I feel really overwhelmed. A lot of the time it can feel challenging then to identify, well, what's the thought causing you to feel anxious or overwhelmed or frustrated, whatever it is. Or the opposite occurs is we're really good at, oh man, I don't know what to do, or I don't know, or we tell ourselves, I feel like this isn't going to work, right? So we have these thoughts that then creates these feelings of self-doubt and of confusion that then drives the respective behavior and results. And so it's creating that space to allow ourselves to identify what's happening in the first place. And for me, it's thinking that this isn't going to be good enough. People aren't going to find this helpful or useful, or, others aren't going to like this. And so with all these emotions going on inside of me, here I am presenting to you today my WIPIMM scorecard, and I'm nervous and doing it anyway. So allow me to walk through what's inside the scorecard that I put together. I really think you're going to enjoy it because it provides you an alternative perspective than everything that's out there, because it addresses not only the foods that we're eating, but also the emotional side of it as to why we do what we do in the first place. And so as you download it, and you can find this on the website at jamescarpentercoaching.com or my other website, eliteweightsolutions.com. The very first thing that you're going to see when you pull it up is this is a simple way to make weight loss fun, easy, and that creates quick results. Plain and simple, because I'm a believer that losing weight shouldn't be a struggle and that too much energy is spent on thinking about the food that we're going to eat next, or if what we are eating is healthy. And so we spend and basically exhaust so much of our energies from the time that we wake up that we're exhausted from a physical standpoint, emotional standpoint, mentally. And so this scorecard addresses that head on because it's not a calorie trap. You don't have to count your calories, measure or weigh your food. Now, granted, all of that can be effective, but I'm here to tell you, having gone through all that, there's a better way. There's a simplified way. And it's designed for lasting weight loss because at the end of the day, if the weight doesn't stay off, then what's the point? And so I'm going to read to you one of the excerpts from the introduction. Is the purpose of this workbook is to first understand why we're eating more than our bodies need by assessing the frequency of added sugars and processed foods in our meal times. And then again, there's no need to count calories, measure, or weigh food. And I'm confident that you'll enjoy the straightforward approach this workbook offers, along with the gimmick-free and uncomplicated concepts within. So again, I'm super excited to be releasing this in all of its rawness and its completeness at the same time. And what I've done is I've broken this up into essentially 3 worksheets for you to use as a beginner's guide, or if you feel like you're more advanced, I guarantee there's something in here that you haven't seen before. So go ahead and check it out. Now, one of the things that you're going to notice is the very first thing that we want you to do is to establish a benchmark. And so the step 1 is titled Know Thyself. And that's where you identify what your current weight is. So for those of you who don't like weighing yourself, like you're going to have to break up the scale and step on it and find out what your starting point is. And then I have a weight and height guide chart to help you know what your natural weight target area should be. And so based on what your starting point is, and then what your goal weight should be based on, the type of person that you are, based on your height and weight, find that target area and then understanding what the difference is so that okay, awesome, this is how much I have to go to be at my natural weight. And then as you explore further into it, you're going to come across what I've termed the hunger meter. And this is really advanced stuff because this is what takes over all of the mental thinking about, all the calorie counting and measuring and weighing food, because what we want to do is really tap into and bring to the surface your body signals. Because as you eat, from the time you wake up to the end of the day, is you're constantly going back and forth between being hungry and being full, being hungry and being full. And so there's a right composition or a correct range that we want to get you to when it comes to eating. And we want you to eat to the point where you feel physically satisfied and then stop. But at the same time, we don't want to get you to the point where you're feeling so hungry that you feel starved or deprived, because that's when you feel like you have to access additional willpower. And again, there's only so much willpower that we have throughout the day anyways. And so when push comes to shove, once all that's gone, that's when you'll find yourself more likely to, go find a fix, or when you're seeking after, food in the kitchen, or whatever it is, you want to grab something that's quick and easy, and you just throw all the logic into the gutter. And so this hunger meter helps you acknowledge where you're at all throughout the day, being physically hungry. And then there are some questions, simple and powerful questions to ask yourself every time you do want to eat. And it's one of the things that you can simply ask yourself, well, why do I want to eat? do I want to eat simply because it's time to eat and I've trained and conditioned myself to think that I'm hungry or to eat because everyone else is doing it? Or I'm eating because I'm actually physically hungry. So some really powerful concepts in there, some questions that you can ask yourself. And again, it's the idea is to take away the struggle and bring to the surface an increased sense of awareness and consciousness with what's going on with you and your body. The other thing that you're going to find is this worksheet called the food journal worksheet, where you're going to track and monitor the foods that you're eating along with where you're at, based on the hunger scale. How hungry are you letting yourself get? And then the opposite effect, how full are you allowing yourself to get with each meal? And then there's a how many meals tracker so that you can start to track and monitor how many times in the day and then also the week you're eating. How many meals? Is it 3 small meals? Is it, 6 to 8 meals? Because there's some information out there that says that you have to break up your meals throughout the day. And so it's one of those things to help you understand and to see how much are you eating and what's the frequency of your meal times. Okay. And then what you're also going to notice is a similar worksheet that then tackles head on how much flour, processed foods and added sugars you're eating with each meal. Because not every meal may have, you may not have processed foods or added sugars with each meal, but if you do, let's at least acknowledge it and track it so that that gives you that increased awareness and insight into what's happening and maybe why weight loss hasn't been a success so far, a part of your story. And this will help build the confidence so that you can see that, okay, here's what's happening and here's what I'm consuming from the previous day to the last several days up to the last week of, what I'm putting in my body and why I may not be seeing the weight loss results that I think I should be getting. Because I'm eating healthy and because I'm doing everything that I think or everything that I'm being told to do, this is to give you that concrete evidence and guide as to, okay, here's some tweaks and some differences, some different changes to try out. Okay. And then also we want to make sure that we're consuming plenty of water. Obviously, water with all of its health benefits has been proven time and time again to help with weight loss. And so we want to make sure that you're getting plenty of water when it comes to whatever diet plan you're on, whatever nutritional uh, guideline that you're following. Water is a key component to just about anything. Okay. And, get your water consumption from water. I don't like to track soda or juices or other, caloric beverages to that regard. Like, get your water from water. And then after you're done with the week, because I set up all these worksheets, they're all designed to give you enough space to track it and monitor it for the previous week. You then have a series of questions to start asking yourself and to start analyzing to find out, more addressing the emotional side of it. What's going on and, how did you feel with your eating and with your food protocol? Did you fall off the bandwagon, so to speak? Did you have multiple cheat meals or joy eats? Or did you stick on your protocol and you're actually feeling pretty good? Like from that instance, like I ate really well, but I feel nervous. I feel anxious. I feel overwhelmed. Let's address what's going on so that we can keep up the traction that you're making. Okay. And then at the same time, at the very end, I've had a lot of questions as to foods that you should include and foods that you should avoid. And so I've also included at the very end a reference guide of some of the more commonly processed and all the known added sugars that we want to be aware of, because those food companies, I'm telling you, they've gotten good at their marketing and they like to mask and cover up processed foods and ingredients and sugars. And because it's one of those things, when you look at the ingredients of what's included in the foods that we're eating, half the stuff I can't even pronounce. And so this is to help guide you and to provide you, additional information to know what it is that you're putting in your mouth that might be deterring or preventing you from the weight loss success that you're seeking. Okay. So that's the scorecard in a nutshell. And then at the very end, there's a final note that just talks about how food, the truth of food, it's not the underlying issue. It's just a byproduct of what's really going on underneath the surface when it comes down to our feelings and emotions. And so that's what we want to address, because once we can figure out, or once we can address the food side of it, because again, if you think about it, food represents such a large component of our day that if we can get that more under control and in a much more manageable um, method throughout the day, like if we can control that, then that allows us the space and just the mental energies to then go out and focus on other areas of our life that we want to build upon and improve upon. That's what I have for you this week. This is me being nervous and anxious, yet excited and doing it anyways. I hope you have a great week. Take care. Bye bye. Hey, if you like this week's podcast, then you should check out my 6-week online weight loss program, where we'll focus on your hormones to get you to your natural weight and look at what's happening in your life and why food is just a distraction that's keeping you from loving your life. Simply schedule a mini call with me at eliteweightsolutions.com/join-me.